Hey there, everybody. Jacob Parker here, reading one of Allie's first books that she wrote. We're going to read chapter 1 of Jaded today. I know it's a lot of y'all's favorite book out there. Not saying I had any part in this, but Jacob, let's think here. Junior high coach. All right, moving on past that. I'll get off my soapbox. All right, here we go. Chapter 1. Are you excited at all? You look rough, like you might throw up any minute. Lisa reached over in the front seat of the car and poked Carrie, whose hands were shaking slightly on the wheel. Carrie laughed sarcastically and glanced toward the fiery redhead beside her, a smile on her mouth as nervous churned from her stomach to her chest. The big day was tomorrow, and she was beyond blessed to be marrying someone like Frank. But that didn't ease her worry, her thoughts. To be tied down to someone for the rest of eternity in hope that they would remain loving, faithful, fun? Impossible. Her own parents were a great match, and yet they'd fallen apart her senior year, leaving her to celebrate most of her high school events with her brother, Mark, and her mom's youngest sister, Katie. If two of the most compatible people in the universe hadn't made it, what chance did she and Frank have? Hey, that was a question. Oh yeah, sorry, I was thinking about my folks again, Carrie shrugged, glancing in the rearview mirror and pulling up a long strip of apartments. Run in and get Cicely. I think I might hurl if I get out right now. Yeah, no problem. Lisa reached for the door handle before looking back across the open confines of the car. You know you don't have to marry him, right? Carrie shrugged and turned to face her friend. I love Frank, Lisa. It's all good. I'm just feeling a little overwhelmed by the idea of forever. Yes, well, I don't love Frank at all. He's too mysterious, and something is jacked up about his hair. Carrie pushed at her best friend. Go get Cicely, and stop trying to break up my happy ending before it even happens. Lisa huffed, her voice soft and low as she grumbled various things about Frank and his hair. As soon as she shut the door to the car, Carrie let out a long breath, her head dropping back and her eyes closing. Was this the right decision? Why was she having second thoughts now? She and Frank had been dating since freshman year of college, and now they had both graduated. It was time for the next step. The wedding had been planned over a 6-month period, Lisa and Cicely helping her along every step of the decision-making process. It's been a long 6 months, one filled with nothing more than minor petting and carefully guarded make-out sessions with her husband-to-be. It was something she wanted, not him. He was more than happy to hump the side of a pole if it had an opening. But he had been faithful to her for the last 4 years. At least she assumed as much. She wanted their wedding night to be special, like opening a new package. The idea of re-virginizing oneself seemed trivial and silly to her friends, but it was something that mattered to her. So she suffered through Frank's occasional rants about being a man and simply reminded him that she rarely asked for much, and this was important to her. The ironic thing was that he wasn't exactly her type. He was fit and strong, sleek and mysterious, the last of which Lisa hated. Her friends berated her for not digging a little more into his past, when she knew very little about it. Life was more about the future to come than the past that slipped into nothingness right behind them. Right? His mother had been from Mexico, and his father was never mentioned, leaving Frank rather withdrawn whenever she brought it up, so she rarely did. They would have the rest of their lives to figure each other out. No need to know everything before becoming one. He was a good man and had a great job, and doubted her most of the time. She'd yet to see a temper or anger streak in the past 4 years, and she loved him, plain and simple. The front and back car doors opened, and her friend slipped in, Cicely getting in the front where Lisa was previously. Her long chestnut hair hung around her shoulders and covered the top of Cicely's white shirt that dipped low into her breast. Her friend was magnificently beautiful, and yet she didn't seem to have the slightest clue, or she didn't care. They'd only been friends for 2 years, but Cicely and Lisa had grown up together on the west side of New York. You weren't lying. Cicely buckled up and looked over towards Lisa in the back seat, Lisa giving a sound of appreciation. Lying about what? Carrie asked before pulling back out into the street. They were headed out for the bachelorette party, the three of them joining a larger group of girls at a club in the heart of downtown Manhattan. Lying about how sickly you look. Lisa leaned up and tugging a strand of Carrie's hair, smiling up at her in her rearview mirror. You okay? Cicely reached over and rubbed her forearm, a soft smile on the other girl's face. Carrie laughed again and shook her head. I'm fine. Wait until you witches are getting married and then you'll understand. Forever is a long time. Like really, really long. Yeah, I'm not hunkering down with the same man forever. No way. Lisa stomped her feet on the floor, the sound of her false tantrum filling the car. Not gonna happen. I refuse. I want to settle down. I think it would be great to trust someone enough to really share all of yourself. You know, both your heart and your body. Cicely reached up and pulled down the small visor in front of her, popping it open and checking her teeth. You already share your body readily. What is the big deal about sharing your heart? You have us for that, Lisa responded from the back seat. Carrie, help me out here. Our hooker friend doesn't understand love because she's spoiled brat, only child who gets whatever she wants. Carrie straightened up a little, pulling onto the freeway and trying to decide whose side to take. On the one hand, she totally understood Cicely. She wanted to love deeply and be loved. But to Lisa's point, sometimes love sucked royally, and lust was simpler and straightforward. I'm not a hooker. I just think that the love and lust are messy. But lust allows you a quick shower and you're back on your feet. Love usually provides weeks of crying, ice cream, causing rear expansion, and necessary purge to remove his crap from your house. That's a lot to ask of a girl. She's right about the rear expansion, Carrie shrugged and tried to get the conversation, her own thoughts filled with question. Why am I so worried about this? Because he's not good for you. He's not even big, all muscled up like you like. Lisa leaned forward and rubbed Carrie's shoulders, her voice louder from her new position. I'm a little surprised you've lasted this long, Cicely added from her seat, pushing the mirror back toward the ceiling and reaching for her purse before pulling out the gun. You guys want a piece? Frank's a good guy. He's handsome, he's smart, has a great job, and he was really there for me in college, no matter what I wanted. Lately, it's been a little, That's because you locked down the goods. Lisa sat back, and Carrie turned on the radio, keeping the volume low. Carrie reached for a piece of gum, smiling at Cicely. Boys are weird about the pee, Carrie. I know my last boyfriend was sex first and talk later, which wasn't much a bad thing, seeing that he was dumb as dirt. Cicely leaned back in her seat, her hands cupped together in her lap. The pee? What are you, 10? Lisa grumbled from the back seat. Her body shifted in the rearview mirror as she turned to press her back against the door and extend her legs across the seat. She wore tight blue jeans and a cotton green top and a push-up bra that left the size of her breast obvious to anyone who looked her way. The girl was stacked, single at the moment. The world should be fearful. Hey, none of us are as vulgar as you, Cicely retorted with a smile on her pretty mouth. Frank has been weird since we stopped sleeping together, but I thought it would be a good idea. I mean, I still do. We need a break. He's insatiable, and every time we were together, it was sex. I wanted to see if there was more to us before getting married. And what did you discover, Sherlock? Lisa asked, her voice filled with question. We do have a good relationship under the lust, but it's not the friendship I would have expected after 4 years of being together. Carrie sighed again, heaviness sitting on her as they pulled up to the large, extravagant club entrance. A few valet guys rushed toward the small Honda. Carrie was happy to be off the hook for now, but she'd soon be having a serious conversation with either one of her good friends. Neither one of them was too fond of Frank, and where she understood why, she was getting toward her mid-20s and wanted to start considering marriage and kids. When Frank popped the question 7 months back, she hadn't hesitated at all in saying yes. After being with someone for so long, that's what you did, right? It was the next step in the process of relationship at her age. Those deep-seated feelings of lingering regret were just a bundle of nerves over a new venture and a fear of the unknown. Come on, you, stop thinking and let's start drinking. Lisa grabbed Carrie's arm and pulled her toward the entrance of the club, the glass clean and offering her a reflection of herself as they approached. Her jet black hair bounced as they walked, the slight curl she'd given it adding an innocent look to herself as she wasn't entirely sure she liked. Her black dress was fitted tightly to her body, her skin tan and legs shapely. She'd left the gym stained in her scent many days in the last weeks. Her effort to lose the last 10 pounds she gained from college richly rewarded. 2-inch heels allowed her to hover a little over her friends, the other girls about the same height as her on a normal day. A large African-American male opened the door, his muscular arms and chest bulging through a small t-shirt he wore. A lovely smile slipped onto his full lips, and he wagged his eyebrows at them. Well, well, if this doesn't smell like trouble, I'm not sure what would. Lisa was quick to respond as usual. The strong, wild redhead who led the group stopped in front of him and placed a well-manicured hand on his chest. And what exactly does trouble smell like, handsome? He leaned down and breathed in deeply, his nose running just beside the soft column of her neck. Very much like you. She laughed and looked back toward the other two. Oh yeah, this is going to be good for us. Carrie rolled her eyes and walked into the darkness of the club, the music pumping so loudly that her heart raced in tandem to catch up. She looked around for the rest of the group, a few more of her friends from high school lingering somewhere undiscovered. Cicely and Lisa left her to grab drinks, and she moved through the club, the layout enormous and welcoming to all sorts of dancers. There were 4 rooms in the monstrous place, each with a different style of music. She stood at the edge of the main floor, the club-style music pouring from the speakers above her. Her eyes moved across the crowd looking for her friends, but taking in the glorious freedom found on the faces of those who moved in the middle of the floor. Dancing was like sex, liquid and free, sensual and stimulating. She bit the side of her lip, realizing how badly she missed both activities in her life. Tonight was going to be a time to exercise the demons of youth and desire in tandem. Hey, you want to dance, beautiful? A deep voice sounded beside her. His large hand was resting on the small of her back, his teeth biting along his lip and eyes dragged across her. She stiffened and looked to her left. The well-built male, most likely in the military, by his size and the seriousness of his appearance. He smiled, and she couldn't help but smile back, his gaze kind and remaining on her face for the moment. Actually, I'm waiting on some friends, so grab me in a bit and I'll definitely show you how it's done. She wagged her eyebrows, knowing he'd find someone else and she wouldn't be tempted to have a one-night stand before the big day. No need in dragging guilt down in the center aisle of the church. I'll hold you to it. He rubbed her back in a small circle and moved out to the floor by himself. The music shifting from fast to grind line material to sensual and enticing. I'd like to see you hold me to something else, namely that wall, Carrie spoke softly to herself, her eyes following the sharp curves of his shoulders, his large arms, and his built butt in his jeans. But she was really getting married the next day. Surely not. Oh my, look at that hot piece of ass. I'm out, ladies. Don't leave without me. Lisa started for the floor before Cicely pulled her back. Hell no. This night is about taking care of Carrie and making sure she bleeds out her last chance desires. You go out there now looking the way you do and someone will have you in the backseat of a car by the next song. Carrie laughed and took the beer her friends offered, the Corona cold and refreshing. Her eyes moved out of the floor, the handsome male who'd enticed her to the dance snuggling up to a small Asian girl, his hips rolling against the small cover of her rear. His eyes stayed on Carrie as heat rised up in her neck and covered her cheeks as he watched her and moved with fluidity. Is that guy eye-fucking you or me? Lisa asked, turning to stand in front of Carrie. Carrie nodded toward the black room. He's definitely looking at you. Come on. Let's go to the hole and see if the other girls I invited are in there. Who are these girls again? The hole is the only room where you can get super freaky. Cicely moved up beside them in a bit of concern slipping across her gaze. They're friends from high school, but the more adventurous ones. Carrie smiled at the memory of some of the stupid things they'd all gotten into together. The atmosphere around her finally calming her senses. She opened the door and walked in, stopping just inside to let her eyes adjust to the faint light that played above the dance floor. People were everywhere. The smell of lust, heavy in the air. Her friends didn't seem to be in the sea of faces, but something rather odd caught her attention. Oh my goodness, look at that, she pointed as Lisa and Cicely moved up beside her. A thin girl sat on someone's lap, the male's pants around his thighs and the girl's skirt up over the curve of her butt. His hands held onto her tight and his movements jerky and uncoordinated. Several guys stood around them, egging them on and sporting visible excitement themselves. Holy shit, you can screw in here? Lisa asked, her eyes wide. Carrie laughed at seeing her friends shocked at the scene before them. Lisa was used to dishing out shock, not receiving it. Hey, I know that guy. Cicely pointed to the tall, good-looking guy seated at the male's left side. Carrie squinted and felt her blood grow cold. I know that guy too. That's Frank's brother. What the hell is he doing here? Carrie asked, moving a little to see if she could make out any of the other faces. Would Frank really bring his guys to the same club and let one of them have sex with a girl out in the open? They could go to jail if the club wanted to press public indecency charges. Then she'd be standing at the altar alone the next day. What a jerk, she murmured, and kept moving before Cicely slipped in front of her. Oh, hell, we need to go, Cicely yelled above the crowd, her skin pasty and eyes filled with some tinted emotion. What? Why? Carrie asked him. Lisa grabbed Cicely's arm. We're going over there. Carrie, go get the car. What? Why? Carrie asked, moving back a little as her friends walked aggressively to the other side, Lisa pulling the small woman off the male's lap and throwing her to the floor. Cold fear swept through her, her heart palpitating in the chest as her gaze touched the confused and angry face of her fiancé. He looked up and locked eyes with her from across the room, his erection on display for all those to see. She covered her mouth as her lunch rose up in her throat, as Frank stood and moved toward her before Cicely and Lisa blocked him. Carrie didn't want to see the rest, but walked quickly toward the front of the club, trying to pull it together before reaching the ballet. Leaving so soon, beautiful? He asked before taking her ticket and smiling. Yeah, not feeling well all of a sudden. Carrie crossed her arms over her chest, numbness stretching out across her nerve endings. She got in the car and waited for the other two, her friends coming out minutes later, both yelling back and forth before getting into the car and letting silence have its hold. You okay, sweetie? Lisa asked, leaning up and rubbing both sides of Carrie's arms. She didn't know how to respond, wasn't sure what to say. Embarrassment and horror kept her lips shut tight. Driving away from her future seemed to be the only reasonable response.